Alright, what I want to talk to you today about is in a hits the fan scenario, um, how to maintain order, especially when your water is limited. Um, Little things that are going to come up, like washing dishes, baby bottles, and this is particularly important. Obviously, this is for bugging in. Um, But if it's because of a flu pandemic or spread of disease, um, more serious, anything with a bodily fluid, your diarrheas, your vomitings, this is going to be uh, from a restaurant perspective of how to properly sanitize your dishes and utensils. This goes for a lot of things, um, but we're going to be using dishes as an example to properly sanitize them. What we have here in the first one is hot soapy water. Then in the rinse, we have a warm rinse. This is just plain water, just slightly warm. And then we have a sanitation on the end. And it's going to be a gallon of cold water to a teaspoon of bleach. Your common bleach, nothing added, all that kind of stuff. Now, some restaurants will have some of them call them a quat sanitizer. These are different sanitation ones that the health department allows besides bleach. Effectively, they can also be used in hot water, but also won't have a bleach aspect um, in them. Oops. Alright, so to begin, you want to make sure, obviously in a crazy scenario, I'm hoping you're going to have all the food licked clean off your plate. But obviously, make sure there's no food particles. Everything's into garbage or something left over. That's going to keep this water maintaining its cleaning ability. Soap and water, all the debris is off. They're looking good. Into your hot rinse water. This is going to get the soap off of them, but they're technically not sanitized yet. They still may have germs on them, other pathogens that can spread. So that's the reason why you go to the added step of sanitizing. Now, in a restaurant, they'll probably have a dish machine, but in order to pass your handler's permit to work in a restaurant, you need to know the 3-sink. And in fact, I think they restarted a law where all restaurants have to have this. You'll even see some smaller bars don't have a way to wash bar glasses, which is directly contacting people's mouths. So you'll see behind the bars a lot of times in smaller bars, they'll have a soap 3-sink, and the guy will literally rub and rinse, and then sanitize, so it's proper to use for another person. Once they've gone through the sanitation, you can just let them air dry. Commercial applications and dishwashers, they will have a sanitizing liquid, a sort of bleach version of that. If they don't, they're required to have a water temperature higher than 160. Now, I'm going to include a link down below, and again, this is going to be the Washington State Health Board, their info on proper food handling. And we'll go into some other stuff, why it's important to carry bleach in your house, why it's important to have a temperature and thermometers around, especially in a hits the fan scenario. But this is going to have to properly sanitize everything. Alright, I want to give you an example of a digital thermometer, which will not need calibration. They do require a battery, though. So this is something you can do at any point. Whether you're not sure if your fridge is cold enough, you can temperature things that are in the door that might be a little bit warmer. But I want to talk about safe food handling and food safety. Your power went off. How do you know that this is still okay to eat? Alright. Now we should see happen if you can see it. That's 40.1, and this has actually been out just a second so I could turn the camera on. But that means it's below 41, which is what you're looking for. Let me put this back in the fridge. It's below 41. What you want is you want it below 40, 41, and above 140. What I mean by that is anything refrigerated needs to be colder than 40 degrees so that bacteria cannot grow. What they call the danger zone is between 40 and 140. Technically they say 41, but it's easier to remember 40 to 140. And again, so I've just touched, turkey on here. So I'm going to clean this off. I'm going to rinse it, and we're going to sanitize it. That way you can check for fish and poultry, other items. There are, more food handling stuff that's going to be in that PDF that I put down below. But essentially I want to just cover a few basic points. And that goes for washing your hands. There's actually a law in Washington. You have to wash not only 20 seconds, but you have to wash twice. Once after you are done using the restroom, in the restroom. Once you get back to the kitchen, you have to wash a second time before touching food. You have to have tongs or some sort of glove barrier when using raw foods. Anything that is ready to eat, like lettuce greens, stuff like that, things you aren't going to be cooking above 140. So if all your things are held below 40 degrees, you're fine. It'll be safe. Now talking about cooking, how do you know that pork is done? How do you know that ground beef that you're cooking on the grill is done? A lot of people like their steaks medium rare. That's fine. I like mine cooked like that as well. But talking in a foodborne illness situation, especially with what they call high-risk people, which are people with immune deficiencies, children, elderly, all of these people are extremely highly vulnerable to foodborne illnesses. And with a setup like this and having a thermometer, being able to know that the food that you have that you're keeping in your Coldwell basement or your makeshift refrigerator that you did is keeping the food safe. It's below 40 degrees. Now when you cook it, even if you may like your steak medium rare, we're not going to get into that. But according to the book, what you're going to do is you're going to keep it above 140. So in that link, you're going to see different temperatures for fish and poultry and pork and ground beef and things like that. Technically, to get to 160, everything's dead in there. And that's where you're going to know with a thermometer if you've hit 160 or not. It's the reason that the dishwashers without a chemical sanitizer need to be able to get water on the rinse to 160 to make sure it's killed everything. And I think that's it.